Hello, good people. Welcome to the December 2025 Scroll Report with your host, Tony MacFarlane. Thanks in advance for hanging out with me over this next half hour or so as we scroll back through the month of December 2025 to see if there's anything worth carrying over into 2026. As usual, to start off, we'll recap the last month with our Boom Scrolls and our Doom Scrolls. And the first Boom Scroll of December goes to none other than the Akron Hammer, the L Train, the Goat, Captain L'America, King James, the Chosen One, the Goat LeBron James, who ended his 10-point streak in December after making a selfless play in Lakers' win against the Raptors on December 4th. The game was tied at 120 points apiece as the Lakers had the ball in the final seconds of the game. King James got the ball, saw a help defender scrambling towards him, which left Rui Hachimura wide open in the corner. So instead of driving to the hoop to get that win while extending his 10-point streak, King James dished the ball to Hachimura, who drained the buzzer beater for a thrilling win. James' night ended with 8 points on a 4 for 17 from the field and 0 for 5 from 3. He kept his offense flowing, though, adding 11 assists and grabbing 6 rebounds. James' streak of consecutive games with 10 or more points began in 2001 and lasted for 1,297 games before it finally came to a close on December 4th. That's an NBA record of over 400 games. It's not only that athletic excellence, but that moral excellence that makes LeBron James, truly the greatest of all time. So my first Doom Scroll of December 2025 might be a bit of a miss. At this point, I am assigning it to Actum Public Relations Firm for the horrible way this Sydney Sweeney scandal has been handled so far. Last summer, actress and model Sydney Sweeney was in an American Eagle Outfitters jeans ad that had a lot of really racist or white supremacist or eugenicist overtones to it, causing a massive backlash against both Sweeney and American Eagle Outfitters. Initially, American Eagle Outfitters executives and CEO Jay Schottenstein advised against public comment and tried to work internally just to keep a lid on things and keep things hush-hush, as it were. Well, apparently that strategy was taken over by Actum in August. However, there's been a lot of going back and forth between American Eagle Outfitters and Actum, each one denying that the other one has any authority to make any statements. So again, more and more hush-hush. So is it Schottenstein or Actum who encouraged Ms. Sweeney to button her lip during a GQ interview in November, where she basically just tried again just to poo-poo and hush-hush and shut down the whole story and just try to be as vapid and empty-headed as possible, even with a reporter who was lobbing her basic easy questions. So in the meantime, Ms. Sweeney is developing a bad reputation among other actors and actresses who have to work with her amidst this controversy. It's just not getting better for her. And really, I think all it would take is a good PR company who knows how to handle these situations, which apparently nobody seems to be able to do. Ooh, what do you know? Here's a BoomScroll for the Party for Socialism and Liberation, who have been making inroads in Prince George's County over the past month, leading the fight against data centers. And while it certainly is all well and good to smash capitalism through direct action, the Party for Socialism and Liberation are taking a more practical and issue-focused approach in Prince George's County by targeting the one hot-button issue, data centers. In Prince George's County, opposition to data centers is a coalition made up primarily of moderate Democrats, seeing their fight as a way to take on big technology companies, environmentalists that are focusing on the risk data centers pose to air and water resources, and the Party of Socialism and Liberation are concerned about the rising energy bills and rapid growth, calling it the new price of eggs. The people of PG County are ready to stand up and fight back, says one PSL organizers, and we felt it was partially our responsibility to help facilitate that and lend our expertise. A lot of elected officials have said they haven't seen this level of mobilization in quite some time. This is the key, folks. Standing on one issue and working it. Excellent job, Party for Socialism and Liberation. Thank you for your work. Here's a tisk 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 DoomScroll for Aramark Food Services Corporation, who are the target of a lawsuit, a federal class action lawsuit, alleging that Aramark is leaving incarcerated people in West Virginia with empty stomachs and their loved ones with empty pockets. The lawsuit claims that Aramark is exploiting incarcerated people at Mount Olive Correctional Complex by denying them adequate meals and instead pushing them and their families to spend money on food items and care packages they must also purchase from the same company. Aramark has exclusive control over all food in West Virginia correctional facilities and is the largest food service provider for prisons and jails in the United States. The lawsuit alleges that Aramark is in violation of the West Virginia Consumer Credit and Protection Act because it is unfair to people who, because of their incarceration, limits what they can buy and where they can buy it from, have no other, less exploitative options to feed themselves. Experts say food is just one sector of a larger prison services industry that siphons wealth from some of the country's poorest communities. Family members of incarcerated people have reported going into debt from the costs of phone calls and visits or working multiple jobs to afford those costs. It's literally a captive market. A group of people who have no ability to purchase anything other than what they're allowed to purchase. The sad news is that this is probably going to get worse as the watchdog groups such as the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the National Consumer Law Center are losing funding, where the current administration is declaring their funding mechanisms unlawful. Hopefully there is going to be some kind of remedy in the courts. Here's a BoomScroll for the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission, who released their final report of the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission report on December 2025. The report assembles painstaking documentation on known racial terror lynchings in Maryland between 1854 and 1933. They gather the data. They also include perspectives on the environment, the community, and historical culture of these places where these incidents occurred. Names were dropped when they could be. And it's very important to pull this all together into information, which is kind of where the state of Maryland is at the moment in dealing with its complex racial history. So, in conclusion, the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission came up with the following recommendations: apology and acknowledgement of responsibility, material reparations, proposing tangible investments to repair historical and ongoing harm, criminal justice, strengthening due process protections for the accused and addressing the absence of accountability and broader failures of the legal system, community healing, fostering spaces and practices for grief, remembrance, and resilience, education, integrating the history of racial terror into curricula and public education, and expanding opportunities for communities impacted by this legacy. Mental health, supporting culturally competent, trauma-informed services for descendants and communities. Symbolic reparations, including apologies, memorials, public acknowledgments, and honoring victims and affirming the truth. Media, providing accurate, respectful storytelling to counter historical distortions. And finally, funding, implementation, and monitoring to ensure recommendations are resourced, enacted, and assessed with transparency and accountability. I'm hoping that Maryland can lead the way in reconciling an ugly part of our history that can be addressed and can be repaired. I'm having trouble deciding, but I think I'm just going to latch onto a DoomScroll for this one. Audrey Henson of the Dre Dossier. On December 15th, Ms. Henson released a video on the Dre Dossier entitled, "Trump Isn't Building a Ballroom." Ms. Henson draws on her experience as a journalist reporting on highly secure, highly secret data center construction around the world, particularly in Jerusalem, to assert that Trump is actually building a highly secure, highly secretive data center under this ballroom. Ms. Henson brings in three conjectures to support her theory that this is a secret data center being built under the White House. First is that the contractor, Clark Communication, has built critical facilities in other places. Then number two, the original architect, James McCrary, who designs churches and Supreme Court gift shop, was replaced by Shalom Baranes. And she believes that Baranes is very expert in building secure data centers. She also draws a line to the donors who are funding this construction, and to lastly, on the side, that it looks like the DC's power grid is doing something weird with water, diverting water. So again, it's all highly conspiratorial, which is why I'm giving this a doom scroll. Most of the Reddit reaction to this has been one of two extremes. Either Trump's too stupid to do this, or Trump's too smart to do this. You know, if he's too stupid to do this, then he'd naturally get caught, and I guess we're catching him. If he's too smart to do this, I mean, who's going to build a command and control center right in the big red target that all of our enemies would have? It's still, I mean, we're going back and forth between, oh, poo-poo, couldn't be happening, or, oh, he's such an evil genius, or, you know, it's, I know, we all know, don't we, that something is going on that's more than meets the eye, but, a secret data center? Let's keep looking. And we've got a boom scroll for Vanity Fair magazine, who for once finally figured out the true meaning of the word media. To tease an upcoming series of articles on the White House, Vanity Fair released a few photographs of these articles to Instagram, where they caused a heck of a scandal. Obviously, the subject of these photos, White House professionals, were all on board with these photos. They didn't see anything going on with them. I wonder what the majority of the people looking at these photographs really think of them. Needless to say, any further comment on them from me would just be punching down. Although I must admit that I got a great deal of entertainment watching other people punching down. And the last DoomScroll of 2025 goes to former Special Prosecutor Jack Smith for using the old "the sun was in my eyes, there was a rock in my shoe" excuse. On December 17th, Smith testified to the House Oversight Committee that his team found proof beyond a reasonable doubt that former President Donald Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Did he really? Wow! Yeah, that revelation and $3 will buy me a cup of coffee. And here's a BoomScroll for Anna's Archive, the largest truly open library in human history. They announced on their blog on December 20th that they have backed up Spotify. We backed up Spotify, metadata, and music files, and distributed it in bulk torrents of about 300 terabytes, grouped by popularity. This release includes the largest publicly available music metadata database with 256 million tracks and 186 million unique ISRCs, or International Standard Recording Codes, meaning that those individual 12-digit codes are assigned to every unique piece of music. So there looks like with 256 million tracks and 186 million ISRCs, there's some overlap going on. It's the world's first preservation archive for music, which is fully open, meaning that it can easily be mirrored by anyone with enough disk space. With 86 million music files representing around 99.6% of listens. This Spotify scrape is or Anna's Archive, humble attempt to start such a preservation archive for music. Of course, Spotify doesn't have all the music in the world, but this is a great start. For now, this torrents-only archive is aimed at preservation, but if there's enough interest, we could add downloading of individual files to Anna's Archive. Thanks to Anna's Archive's initiative, humanity's musical heritage could be forever protected from destruction by natural disaster, wars, budget cuts, or other catastrophes. So this is really good work. Plus, the infographics in the second half of the blog are a data geek's dream. Have at it. Alien archaeologists of the future will thank you. And now we come to Mizwell Yell at the Sky. I've got just one question. Who exactly is asking me to apologize for being white? In a speech delivered December 21st at Turning Point USA America Fest in Phoenix, Arizona, Vice President J.D. Vance stated, and I quote, "In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore." Okay, I've got another question. Does that mean apologies are optional? Because I gotta tell you, I've been around this country more than 60 years, and either in the abstract or the academic even, nobody has ever asked me to apologize for my caucasity. About 50 years ago, this guy over here said something that stuck with me ever since. You know something, peephole? I'm not black, but there's a whole lot of times I wish I could say I'm not white. All right, one more question. There's got to be. What does J.D. Vance really mean by this non-performative non sequitur? The fulcrum to answering that question is a term called Heritage Americans. This was basically the whole rigmarole of Turning Point USA's AmFest, was this question. Can some citizens be more American than others? The speakers at AmFest worked very hard to show a unified front with a unified answer to the negative. No, we had Ben Shapiro, Vivek Ramaswamy, even Tucker Carlson coming out and saying that we are not a party that is excluding certain people. But J.D. Vance just couldn't take that step. Just danced around the issue like a true politician. See, the problem Mr. Vance is having, as the heir apparent to the new right and a politician, he's being dogged at his heels by ankle-biting groypers, personified mostly in the visage of one Nick Fuentes, who wasn't invited to TPUSA's AmFest, but his presence was just as palpable as if he had been. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Nick Fuentes. I'm not going to take him seriously until he's seen by a phrenologist, but he is a subscriber to the Heritage American idea. I know that much. He believes that some Americans are more American than others. These men, as the media likes to call them, groypers, do they like to be called groypers? Like to couch this idea in non-performative terms, like whoever's been here the longest is more American. Except for the indigenous people who've been here since the Stone Age, and the Hispanic people who've been here at least 350 years longer than Fuentes' ancestors, even though his name is Fuentes. In the end, I care more about what Fuentes believes than what Vance believes. It's irrelevant to me what J.D. Vance believes. He's obviously courting that voter's bloc for the next election. But what do I believe? Am I sorry for being white? Oh no, I'm more sorry for J.D. Vance than for being white. Am I ashamed of being white, though? Yes, I am ashamed of much of what has been done in the name of whiteness. I am profoundly embarrassed by the whole concept of whiteness. And I won't apologize for any of that. I promise to keep working to make myself better, less racist, more excellent. One measure that I heartily support is reparations. I mean, we have the receipts for redlining, Jim Crow, forced sterilization, and much, much more. It would go a long way to alleviating white shame, to paying your way out. And that's why I'm very glad to see that Maryland is moving forward with that. On December 16th, the Maryland legislature overrode a veto of a bill to establish a voluntary commission to examine reparations. I don't understand the reasoning behind Maryland Governor Wesley Moore's veto of this bill back in May, but I find it interesting that people who normally hate Governor Moore for some reason are fully in support of his veto and are just so angry that we are now just moving forward with studying the issue. All of this left me a little confused for a while. I mean, it would all make perfect sense if somehow there was a system designed to promote white mediocrity in our nation. I just couldn't see the strings until it was revealed to me by Samantha Fulnecke. Fulnecke was a student at the University of Oklahoma studying psychology when she got a failing grade for an essay she wrote where she cited the Bible. In her essay, which was a response to an article about how people are perceived based on societal expectations of gender, Ms. Fulnecke wrote that traditional gender roles should not be considered stereotypes because Deus Levolt. It's God's will. And of course, such unsupported assertions are perfectly fine for mediocre people like Ms. Fulnecke, who had her grade overturned and was reinstated with a lot of pomp and circumstance. Still, all of this didn't really come into focus until I caught a video essay by the Think Piece tribe called Charlie Kirk and White Mediocrity. It broke down logically, step by step, how this system is built to reinforce and reward white mediocrity in America. It is so well thought and so well argued that I am convinced that this is the exact problem with us right now, is that we are caught in a system that reinforces mediocrity among the white section of our population. I'm not going to re-prosecute the Think Piece's argument all over again. I just want to add one little strut that the mechanism for the system involves capitulation, surrendering your true values. That's where it starts. Oh, is that what white nationalist Jesus actually meant when he said in Matthew 19:21, if you want to be perfect, go, sell your possessions and give to the poor. Possessions must mean values, and the poor must mean politicians. I hope I'm not alone with being exhausted with all of this white mediocrity, with a system that trains me in learned helplessness. What can we do to be truly excellent? Well, the first thing is recognizing that excellence is not white. No matter what you've been told about Western civilization. For example, the first thing any white musician needs to do to be excellent is recognize that all music is black. Once you get past that, you're on your way to excellence. It's the same everywhere. Look, this system is going to be running for 30 years. You might be able to squeeze another 30 years of successful mediocrity out of our civilization. But your days are numbered. We might as well get started now. Who's with me? And now we have the scroll bits. December is the end of the year. Time for lists, especially music lists. What were the top 10 songs of 2025? Well, I've got some ideas, but I think other people are doing a better job of putting together end of the year lists, so let's take a look at some of them. Todd in the Shadows is my hands down favorite music critic online. I suppose that's because I agree with him most of the time. Todd in the Shadows does a great thing, though. He does not only the 10 best songs of 2025, but then he does the 10 worst songs of 2025. All very crunchy insights. I like Anthony Fantano too. He can be problematic on occasion, but his end of the year list is really comprehensive, goes way out into the weeds and explores music that I'm really not that familiar with, so I definitely love that exposure. Rick Beato, we've had on the Scroll Report before. His end of the year lists are much more professional and polished, and I would say should be taken a little bit more than the previous two. My vote for Musical Artist of the Year? Hands down, Lady Gaga. She had the tour, she had the album, she had the performance at Coachella. This was Lady Gaga's year, and you talk about Taylor Swift and Beyonce are billionaires now, but I believe that they can't hold a candle to what Ms. Gaga accomplished in 2025. Max, the enigmatic host of Unfucking the Republic, UNFTR, has some pretty dire political predictions for 2026. Let me see if I can summarize them all 23 real quick. Number one, 2026 will be the find out phase of Trump's 2025 fuck around plan. Poor holiday numbers will result in massive January layoffs. Those out of the job market will stay out of the job market, and gig work will increase. Number five, the official unemployment rate will creep up 0.1% month over month until some kind of correction happens in the equities market, if at all it does. There will be more frequent Fed auctions. Number eight, rates will climb on the long end of the yield curve, and there will be increasing pressure on the short end of the yield curve as well. Inflation will remain around 3% for the rest of the year. Number 10, corporate earnings season will be slower than expected because they are expecting money from consumers after tax season, which will only be going to people who have jobs. There will be a flight to hard currency like gold and silver. There will be more mergers and bankruptcies. Until number 13, finally, a gasket will blow somewhere. Unrest will rise up in the country, and there will be a massive and heavy response to it, causing a lot of turmoil in the streets. Trump will act out even more as these disasters start mounting up. Max expects a full-blown official recession by summer. We are already in a recession, but you know how recessions work. You can't really announce it until you're like 6 months in. There will be fears of a new debt crisis as America's $9 trillion debt is being called throughout the world. There will be some quantitative easing from central banks by this time, which will further spur more inflation. Meanwhile, number 18, Trump will continue to unravel, with 20th Amendment cries getting louder even from within his own party. Number 19, the Democrats will win the House in the midterms. I personally disagree. Max also says that the Democrats will not win the Senate, and that will result in deadlock. My opinion, Dems won't win either the House or the Senate in the midterms. I'm pretty sure it's a done deal. There will be a constitutional crisis, maybe spurred on by the midterm elections, that will result in an increasing police state. There will be something will happen to cause a momentary spike in oil prices next year, which will further fuel inflation fears. And lastly, Max believes that some people will make a massive fortune profiting off the misery of others. I think it's going to be all misery except for the 1%. But anyway, I'm not Max. Max is much more brilliant than me. Hopefully he's wrong too, huh? Dutch cartoonist Tjeerd Royaerts won the European Cartoon Award for 2025 for this picture here. The Whitney Museum of American Art has named the 56 participating artists for its forthcoming Whitney Biennale 2026. Among the most recognizable names are Palestinian artist Samia Halabi. Looking forward to that. Move over, Dave Chappelle. While you collect your millions of dollars from the Arabs, and I just watch you for free on Netflix and get a couple of chuckles out of it, but I would pay money to see Josh Johnson. Special thanks to my friend Steve Talbot for turning me on to Josh Johnson's comedy. His stand-up is impeccable. Brilliant, brilliant rhetoric. He manages to make these connections. He talks about politics a little bit, but he just connects that to wider perspectives, which I just love. And while I also do enjoy a cuss word or two now and again from my favorite comedian, Josh Johnson's work is remarkably devoid of blue material. It's refreshing. And his storytelling kind of reminds me of another hero I had growing up. So I watched Avatar: Fire and Ash in the theater on Christmas Day. It was all right. At least as good as the last one. I wonder, though, if I was thinking it was better because I had to get dressed and go out and sit in the theater to watch it. And since I had that much invested in it, I had to invest it in being a good movie, you know? Because I think the same thing might have happened to my friends who saw one battle after another in the theater. Because I caught it on HBO and I had to prop my eyes open to keep up with it. It was like, oh, isn't that the guy from The Dream who got eaten by a bear? Or maybe he's eating something. It's just the same Leonardo DiCaprio in every movie he's ever done. But I gotta hand it to Benicio del Toro. He made that whole movie. I was just riveted to him every second he was on screen. My candidate for movie of the year has to be Neza 2. What a fabulous movie. Neza is a Chinese folk hero that at least as old as the Monkey King. And Neza 2 was a massive success this year. Broke box office records around the world. I was mostly smitten with the messages of individuality and family and staying strong to your values. Something I never really expected to come out of communist China's media. It was very refreshing. Maybe it's one of those like Jungian id things that, you know, the culture, the Chinese culture is reflecting. Oh no, I think that perhaps that the Chinese culture values individualism as much as Americans. Neza 2 also contributed to China's 2025 box office returns exceeding 50 billion yuan for the first time. And now for Memento Mori. Perhaps the most celebrated architect of his time, Frank Gehry, passed away on December 5th at the age of 96 of a brief respiratory illness. Gary's fascination with modern pop art led to the creation of distinctive, striking buildings. Among his many masterpieces are the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain, the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, and Berlin's DZ Bank Building. He also designed an expansion of Facebook's Northern California headquarters and was awarded every major prize architecture has to offer, including the field's top honor, the Pritzker Prize, for what has been described as refreshingly original and totally American work. Other honors include the Royal Institute of British Architects Gold Medal, the Americans for the Arts Lifetime Achievement Award, and his native country's highest honor, the Companion of the Order of Canada. Video game developer Vince Zampella and a passenger were killed in a car crash on December 21st in Los Angeles. Zampella is co-creator of the Call of Duty franchise, a lauded figure in the video game industry, and head of Respawn Entertainment, best known for video games Titanfall, Titanfall 2, Apex Legends, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Zampella also led EA studio team based in Playa Vista behind the popular Battlefield video game and franchise, and if I didn't say it, again, he was a co-creator of Call of Duty. He was driving a Ferrari about 12:45 p.m. on the scenic road north of Los Angeles in the San Gabriel Mountains. He was driving a Ferrari that veered off the road just after exiting a tunnel, hitting a concrete barrier, and was trapped in the ensuing car fire. He died at the scene, and the passenger died at the hospital. French actress, singer, model, animal rights activist Brigitte Bardot passed away on December 28th at the age of 91. Reading from her Wikipedia page, she was an aspiring ballerina during childhood, began her acting career in 1952, achieved international recognition in 1957 for her role in And God Created Woman, catching the attention of many French intellectuals and earning her the nickname Sex Kitten. After retiring from acting in 1973, Bardot became an animal rights activist and created the Brigitte Bardot Foundation. She was known for her strong personality, outspokenness, speeches on animal welfare, and for her long-term support of far-right views. She was fined twice for public insults and 5 times for inciting racial hatred for her criticism of Muslims in France and calling the residents of Réunion savages. She responded, "I never knowingly wanted to hurt anybody. It's not in my character." Gospel artist Richard Smallwood passed away on December 30th at the age of 77 from kidney complications. I'm going to read from his Wikipedia page. He began his career in 1982 with the album Richard Smallwood Singers. The album spent 87 weeks on Billboard's gospel chart. Its follow-up, Psalms, was nominated for a Grammy Award. 2 years later, Textures was also nominated. Textures includes the song Center of My Joy, which was written by Smallwood with Bill and Gloria Gaither. Smallwood won his first Grammy Award, along with the Dove Award, for his production on the Quincy Jones and Mervyn Warren album, Handel's Messiah, Soulful Celebration. Smallwood's music has been recorded by many artists, including Destiny's Child, Yolanda Adams. He accompanied opera singer Leontine Price at a Christmas celebration at the White House during the Reagan administration. One of his concerts was recorded live at the Hammerstein Ballroom in the Manhattan Center in New York. The concert features Kim Burrell, Kelly Price, Chaka Khan, Tremaine Hawkins, Aretha Franklin, and the Clark Sisters. Among Smallwood's most popular songs are Total Praise, composed in 1996 while he was experiencing sorrow in his life, and I Love the Lord, popularized by singer Whitney Houston in the film The Preacher's Wife. That was the Scroll Report for December 2025. Thank you for watching. If there was some content that resonated with you, please throw a thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Scroll Report to get these vlog posts the first Sunday of every month. But more importantly, sign up for the newsletter on TonyMacFarlane.com for the follow-up documentation that cites everything that I was saying in this last 40 minutes or so. Thank you for your eyes, and have the best 2026 ever. Bye.